Let's do a little case study. Taken in London is the name of our movie. So let's take a look at how we're going to put this movie together. We have an action thriller for $10 million. It's a commercial movie, and we'll talk to our sales agent about the potential cast that we're thinking of attaching and our director. And the sales agent confirms that they believe that they can generate 75% of the budget to be covered from international distribution rights revenues. And they also believe that 35% of the budget in pre-sales is realistically. So we are assuming for a finance plan that our take level, meaning our low price level for international distribution rights revenues, is going to be 75% of the budget. So for $10 million, that's $7.5 million. And international pre-sales are going to be concluded at 35% of the budget, which would be then $3.5 million. Now the distributors pay us 20% of a down payment, 20% of a down payment, and 80% on notice of delivery, which is the sales agent who lets them know the film is now finished and we're going to deliver the film to you, and your balance of 80% is now due for payment. So we have 20% that we can use for a finance plan when we cover a portion of a budget, and then the 80% is going to be given to us, or not actually, well, to us, yes, but we use it to pay the bank back, and I'll get there in a minute. So 2 installments is normal with distributors. They usually pay 20% down and then 80% on delivery. After we're finished with the film, we're going to sell the US rights for 35% of the budget, which is $3.5 million. And because we're selling this after a film is finished, we can't really use it in a way of having the bank give us a loan against it, because it's not happening yet. It's going to happen when a film is done. So at that point, we're going to screen the movie, and then we have US distributors look at it, and then we get an amazing bidding war, and we're selling it for $3.5 million. So let's look at some of the financial considerations for our funding sources. So we are going to do a pre-sale loan. Our pre-sales, remember, were 35% of the budget. That's $3.5 million. And the senior lender looks at our contracts and says, yeah, these are great contracts. I'm going to put them in a category C, which means I will give you 80% of these contracts as a loan. So we're going to get 80% of $3.5 million as a loan provided to us from the bank. And then the bank will charge us an interest of 9% for the term. The term in this case is usually 2 years. So this is 9% altogether, and they will deduct this interest up front. So they basically put together an interest reserve. The gap loan is going to be a loan against unsold rights. Now the unsold rights are put together by us looking at what were our international sales estimates. They were 75% of the budget. How much of that have we then sold, which was 35%. So we're left with 40% of sales that we can still make, because 75% minus 35% leaves us with 40% of unsold rights. Now the bank will look at the 40% of unsold rights and say, you know what, I want 200% coverage. So I will only give you $2 million because I need $4 million to cover it. So let's say the bank would have given us just $1 million. They would have wanted to see $2 million in unsold rights. That is what this 200% coverage refers to, or easier said, whatever unsold rights you are left with, you would just divide it by 2, and then you would know what the gap loan would be. Now remember that the bank will never give you more than 20% of your budget as a gap loan, no matter how many unsold rights you have available. That's the maximum. So in this case, we're going to get 50%, which is $2 million, because we had $7.5 million in estimated distribution rights revenues. Of that, we pre-sold $3.5 million, so we're left with $4 million, which gets us to a gap loan of $2 million. And we're going to look at that a little closer when we put our finance plan together. So the interest for this is 12% for the term, and the bank will also apply a 75% legal and loan fees. So that means that all these costs, interest and legal and loan fee, will be deducted from the loan amount, and whatever is left is what we will have available to cover our production costs. We also have a junior lender who provides 5% of the budget, and they will not apply any interest, but they want an executive producer fee of $125,000, and that is going to be deducted from that loan. they will also want us to pay their legal fee of $25,000. So altogether, we're going to pay $150,000 in fees of the junior loan, and that will be deducted when we know how much it is. We're going to figure that out in a minute. The junior lender will, instead of charging us an interest, charge a premium, and that premium is based on the loan amount that they give us, meaning the gross loan amount, not the net loan amount, and that will be paid from distribution rights revenues in the recoupment schedule because it is a premium and not an interest. Premiums are always paid in the recoupment phase and interests are always deducted upfront. And there are a few more finance sources we're able to secure for our movie and to cover our production costs, and that is a production incentive, which is going to be given to us in the value of 25% of the budget. So the incentive lender looks at the budget and looks at the estimate that is provided by an accountant that they approve, and will then say, okay, 25% of the budget is going to be the incentive, and we will provide a loan against it in advance, and we will charge a 15% fee of this incentive loan amount, and will also charge $25,000 for an executive producer fee, $50,000 for an executive producer fee and $25,000 for a legal fee. And all of these costs are deducted from the loan amount, from the incentive loan. The incentive lender will then later go and be repaid through the incentive region directly. So they will not get paid by us. They'll get their money from the incentive region, which is why this loan is effectively a non-recoupable finance source for us. And then with brand integration, so we are working with a brand. The brand agrees to give us 3% of the budget, and the advertising agency we use to help us with this brand integration component charges us a 50% commission, which is deducted upfront. We're also working with a music investment company, and they will give us $120,000, and their recoupment takes place from the revenues they achieve through the music royalties. So again, this is not a loan that we have to repay. The music investment is repaid through another asset form through the music royalty rights. The equity investment is going to cover the balance that is needed after we applied all the production financing opportunities here into our finance plan, sum them all up, and whatever is left is going to be covered by the equity investor. The equity investor will do the deal under industry standard terms, meaning they'll charge us a 20% premium on their investment, and they'll expect to get 50% back-end profit participation of the percentage that reflects their investment in relation to the budget. We do have some other things to look at for expenses. We have a collection agent, and the collection agent charges us 1% of all the revenues that will arrive in the collection account, which is the escrow account they manage on our behalf and on behalf of the project. The sales agent will also be charging us a sales fee as well as an expense fee. So they're charging us 50% sales fee and 1% distribution expenses from all worldwide sales. This sales agent will not just sell international rights, but also the US rights. So they charge us altogether 16%. And they will defer their fee after the senior loan has recouped. So when we get the down payment, the 20% that the distributor pays to us when they sign the deal, the sales agent will actually not deduct their sales fee at this time, even though they could. So they will not deduct anything. They'll allow us to keep the down payment to cover a portion of our budget, and then they will deduct the entire sales fee on all the sales they generated from revenues. And then we also need to talk about profit participations. And as the producer, we're going to pay the director and cast each 15% in profits. So the question now is, how much money are we, the producer, making in profits? So first we take a look at the valuation of our project. We know we're going to spend $10 million. And the international sales agent told us that international sales are estimated to come in at the take level, meaning the low level, at 75% of that, which is 7.5 million. We're going to conclude 35% in pre-sales. 35% of 10 million is 3.5 million. And we're going to note that we have unsold rights available, which is 4 million. This is simply 7,500,000 minus the pre-sales of 3,500,000, leaving us with rights that we can still sell for $4 million. And then we have distribution rights revenues for the US at 35% of the budget, which is $3.5 million. So when you take all the international sales estimates and you take the US revenues together, you're going to receive $11 million from worldwide distribution revenues. Let's take a look at our senior loan. So as we mentioned before, we had sales estimates altogether for 75% of our $10 million budget, which was $7.5 million. Of that, we were able to generate $3.5 million in pre-sales. So that means we could have sold, for example, distribution rights to a German distributor for $1 million, some rights to a UK distributor for $1 million, distribution rights maybe to a French distributor for $1 million, and maybe we also sold distribution rights to an Italian distributor for $500,000. So all these contracts together come to $3.5 million. Then the bank will look at these contracts and value them. In this case, they valued them as a category C, which means they will provide 80% of these contract values to us as a loan. So that is 80% of 3.5 million, which is 2.8 million. The bank also knows that we already received a down payment of 560,000 because the distributor gave us a down payment when they signed the agreements with us or with the sales agent at that point. And the sales agent released the 560,000 to us, so we used it as a portion of our production budget. So the bank will therefore deduct it because that money is not coming in again, otherwise we will be paid twice. We already received this portion. So the bank says you received 20% of 3.5 million, which is 560,000. We are deducting this now, and you're left with 2,240,000 as a pre-sale loan amount gross. Now, of this or on this loan amount, we're going to have to obviously deduct and pay for interest. The interest is 9% of 2,240,000, which is 201,600. We're not actually paying this. We're not giving the bank a check for $201,000 in essence. This is going to be held back as a reserve, as an interest reserve, and we will pay this when monies are coming in, meaning from distribution revenues. So at this point, we're going to have a pre-sale loan amount available to us of $2,038,400. Now we're looking at the gap loan next. Remember that we had $7.5 million in estimated foreign rights revenues. Of that, we actually then established $3.5 million in actual sales, which leaves us with $4 million in sales that we can still make. It's $7.5 million minus $3.5 million pre-sales, leaves us with $4 million in rights we can still sell. So the bank looks at that collateral pool and says, it's great, you have $4 million that you can still sell, but we're only giving you a loan for $2 million because we require a 200% collateral coverage. So if we would have, for example, have gotten a gap loan for $1 million, the unsold rights would have been $2 million. If we would have gotten a loan for $500,000, the unsold rights would have been $1 million. So they will always give us half of what the unsold rights value is. So then they charge us a 12% interest, which is 12% of $2 million, 240,000 plus a loan and legal fee of 75,000, which leaves us with 1.685 million for the gap loan component. So altogether, we are going to have 3,723,400 available to cover the production, but we're going to have to pay back 4,240,000 to pay for interest, loan, and legal fees. Our junior lender said they're going to give us 10% of the budget. That's $1 million. We're going to pay $25,000 legal fee, a $125,000 executive producer fee. So all in all, we're left with $850,000. Then we're going to get an incentive loan, and that was 25% of the budget. So that's $2.5 million. We're asked to pay a 15% fee, which is 15% of 2.5 million, so 375,000. We asked to pay a legal fee and an executive producer fee, altogether $75,000. So that means we're left with $2,050,000 to cover a portion of our production costs. The brand integration amount was 3% of the budget. That is $300,000. We're going to pay the agency who got the deal for us 15% of that. So that is $45,000, which means we are left with $255,000 from brand integration. The music investment company is going to release $120,000 to us, and that is why we're adding it here in our finance plan. In order to figure out what our equity is, we're going to look at all the funding sources we have secured so far and add them all up. And if we do, we get to a subtotal of $7,558,400, which means we're going to need $2,441,600 from our equity investor to be able to cover our $10 million budget. So here's our entire finance plan all together again in one sheet. Again, we have our senior loan of $3,723,400. Of that, we have to pay back $4,240,000 to pay back the interest fees that we have to pay and the loan and legal fees. We have the junior loan for $1 million that we have to repay, and of that we are getting $850,000. We're getting a production incentive of 25%. Deducting all the fees is going to be $2,050,000. And we're going to have brand integration for 3%, and after the fees we end up with $255,000. We're going to have our investment for music of $120,000, and we have our equity for $2,441,600, and altogether we're now covered for $10 million. We now made our movie, yay! So we're going out and selling it, and guess what? We are actually going to get all our international distribution rights sold at the estimated amount, which was $7.5 million. We're going to sell the US rights for $3.5 million. So altogether, our worldwide distribution revenues are going to be $11 million, but we're obviously going to deduct from that the $560,000 we already received from our distributors. So we're left with $10,440,000 from distribution rights revenues, international and US distribution. So now we have to pay a few expenses. We're going to pay our collection agent 1% of our revenues, which would be $104,400. We're going to pay the sales agent 15% of a sales fee for all the rights that he has sold, which was $1,650,000, and then distribution expenses are 1% of that, which is $1,100,000. So then we're going to pay our senior loan back, which remember was $4,240,000 because it includes all the interest fees and loan charges. We're going to pay the junior loan back, which was $1 million, and now the premium is due here at 10%, so that's another $100,000. And we're going to pay our equity investor back, who gave us $2,441,600, and now we're adding the 20% premium here, which is $448,320. So altogether, all these expenses that we have to pay come to $10,134,320. So now it's time to figure out our profit participation payments. And the way to do that is we're going to look at all the revenues, which, as you recall, were $10,440,000, and all our expenses, which was $10,134,320. So we're left with net revenues of $305,680. That's $305,680. So we're paying our cast and director each 15%, so together 30%, that's $91,704. And the equity investor is going to get 15% of the investment given to us in relation to the budget, and that would calculate a profit participation of 12.21%, because, as you remember, the equity investor gave us 24.42%. So altogether, we're paying profit participation of $129,021, leaving us, the producer, with a producer profit of $176,659. So this was our case study walkthrough. If you have any questions about this case study, please email me on Canvas, or feel free to set up a one-on-one session, and I'm happy to walk you through it. You're going to have a discussion coming up that relates to this case study. So make sure you watch this video, maybe watch it once or twice if you're not sure, so that you understand all the different steps we took in order to arrive to the producer's profit.